Peppa Pig has been on the air for more than 2 decades now, which means even your parents or grandparents have probably stumbled across an episode while flipping through TV channels. And even after all this time, almost no one notices the absurd amount of strange, curious, and completely illogical details that show up throughout the episodes. Today we're diving into all of that, and honestly, some things might change the way you see the little pink pig forever. So get ready because we're about to blow your mind. Let's start with something most people never connected. The fact that Daddy Pig works as an architect lines up directly with one of the most famous children's stories in the world, the fable of the 3 little pigs. The smartest pig in the story builds his house out of bricks. And when Mr. Bull shows up with his crew to build a new house, guess what? They ask exactly which materials will be used: straw, wood, and bricks. The same 3 materials from the fable. And if that wasn't wild enough, we also see Daddy Pig choosing the strongest option, just like the one pig who actually escaped the big bad wolf. Now think about this. Could the brick house pig be a direct ancestor of the pig family? That would make Daddy Pig, and Peppa herself, descendants of a true children's story legend. And going even further, Wendy Wolf's family, who shows up at the end blowing on the house to test its strength, could be direct descendants of the original Big Bad Wolf. Just this theory alone is enough to scramble anyone's brain. Now let's jump to another bizarre detail. The rock gazelles, revealed in Madame Gazelle's farewell episode. When the show reveals where they live, the entire place is covered in snow. This proves they clearly don't live in Peppa's town, since in that very same episode, not a single snowflake falls there. So we're left with 2 possibilities. The Gazelle sisters live somewhere extremely high up, where it snows almost year-round. Or they came straight from another super cold country. And that raises a question that just won't go away. Does it snow like that year-round in Transylvania, home of Dracula? Because if it does, maybe the gazelles have a darker backstory than we ever imagined. Even though Daddy Pig works designing houses as an architect, he has a seriously complicated relationship with tools. Whenever he needs to use a hammer, a drill, or anything involving nails and walls, everything becomes a disaster. That's obvious when he tries to put in a simple nail and ends up creating a gigantic hole in the wall. And as if that weren't enough, he tries to hide the damage by placing a picture of the kids right on top of it. Seriously, Daddy Pig, that's not exactly the kind of example a dad should be giving. Honestly, the hole was so massive it looked like he was trying to open a secret portal in the living room. Pretty much everyone who watches Peppa Pig has noticed this at least once. Almost every house sits on top of a hill. No matter the episode, the entire town seems built way up high. Even when Daddy Pig designs a house, he plans everything assuming it'll be placed at the highest spot possible, which must make life extremely complicated for the construction crew. The only real exception is the Rabbit family's house, Rebecca and Richard's. Even though the entrance is up high, the main structure is underground, like a real burrow, just like rabbits in the real world. But aside from that, everything in the region is way up there. Houses, the school, the museum, the hospital. Everything elevated as if the whole place specializes in panoramic views. And why is that? There's no official answer, but many fans believe the town suffers from massive floods, which would even explain how Grandpa Pig managed to sail all the way to his grandkid's house on a boat. If that's true, Grandpa Pig is basically the most well-prepared resident on the planet. This is one of the funniest and most confusing questions in the entire show. Across 300 episodes, we never see a character fully facing forward. They always appear in profile, yet they still have 2 visible eyes at the same time, meaning if we see 2 eyes from the side, does that mean they would have 4 from the front? The only exceptions are the talking vegetables, like Mr. Potato, who occasionally appears somewhat facing forward. But honestly, talking vegetables are already weird. If they had 4 eyes on top of that, they'd look like something straight out of a horror movie. This mystery has confused people for years. How exactly do predatory animals survive in Peppa's world? In the episode where George gets sick, we see Dr. Bear, and everybody knows real bears are powerful carnivores. Then we have the Wolf family, clearly a nod to the 3 little pigs, since the big bad wolf famously planned to eat the 3 little brothers. And at the zoo, we also find a lion and a crocodile. Animals that, under any normal circumstances, would terrify any clueless little pig. But nope, they act like civilized, polite, perfectly controlled creatures. Still, their wild DNA is definitely somewhere in there, waiting to roar. Which raises the question, what do they eat? Do they only eat fruits and veggies? But if they eat Mr. Potato or Talking Blueberry, wouldn't that technically make them carnivores again? It's way too much information for one brain to process. Now's the time to do the right thing. So go ahead and click the subscribe button below and give us that extra support so we can keep making awesome videos like this one. Peppa Pig's universe is full of super different families, and they all follow that pattern we already know so well. A dad and a mom from the same species, like Daddy and Mommy Pig or Daddy and Mommy Rabbit. This setup has always worked, but there's a curious little detail that almost everyone forgets. When the grown-ups were kids, they all studied together in the very same school, meaning that, way back then, there were several students from each species hanging out side by side. Something totally different different from today, since in Peppa's current school, we usually see just one kid from each species in every age group. And that's exactly why in the episode The Future, when Peppa sleeps over at Susie's house and the two of them start imagining what it will be like when they grow up, they say they might marry Pedro Pony or Danny Dog. This pretty much shows that the next future couples could end up being mixed between different species, like Peppa and Pedro or Susie and Danny. The only reason that wouldn't happen is if new characters from their same species suddenly appeared, something that, after 20 years of the show, still hasn't happened. Another wild detail in Peppa's world is that it's not just animals talking and living like humans. There are actual humans too. This becomes obvious with characters like the pirate and even Santa Claus, who show up naturally in the episodes as if it's the most normal thing ever. And it doesn't stop there. Even fruits and veggies come to life with full awareness and their own personalities. One of the best examples is Mr. Potato and his entire cheerful crew, who even put on a big Christmas performance packed with music and energy for the kids. All of this makes Peppa Pig's universe even crazier and more fascinating, right? It's impossible not to wonder how this world actually works. And since we're already in this weird things vibe, there's another detail that has always confused a lot of people. Why is Mr. Bull on the dad's soccer team if he doesn't have any kids in Peppa's school? And it doesn't even stop there. Mr. Bull shows up in front of the school several times, right when parents are picking up their kids, but he doesn't have any child there. This mystery has never been fully explained, but it opens space for a lot of theories. And the most likely one is directly connected to a detail we're going to talk about later on. Now, talking about the rabbit family, there's a reveal many people don't notice until they watch certain episodes several times. Miss Rabbit and Mommy Rabbit are twin sisters. Miss Rabbit, by the way, is famous for having more jobs than any other character in the show. Seriously, she's already passed 90 different jobs on record. No wonder so many people confuse her with Rebecca's mom. But the truth is something else. The multitasker is actually Rebecca's aunt. That becomes super clear in the episode Mommy Rabbit's Bump, where the two appear together in the hospital. Miss Rabbit working as a nurse, and Mommy Rabbit getting ready to give birth to her twins. After that, we discover another pair of twins in Rebecca's family. Will the audience end up confusing those siblings too in the future? At least this time, since one is a boy and the other is a girl, it's a bit easier to tell them apart. In the episode The Fire Engine, there's a detail that seems simple, but when we stop to think about it, it becomes honestly pretty bizarre. Daddy Pig says he's going to meet up with the dad's soccer team, and that they're all going to have a barbecue together. But then comes the strange part. Among the people there, we have a pig and a bull, and that leads to the question nobody wants to answer. What kind of meat are they planning to grill? Could it be that those dads are being cannibals? Once you notice this, the whole scene gets a pretty creepy vibe, right? It's one of those things you only pick up on after rewatching the episode. Leaving the rabbit family and going back to the pig family, there's another curiosity that slips by most people. Almost none of the adults' names are ever revealed in this series, but Auntie Dottie is an exception. In the episode Horsey Twinkle Toes, she sends Peppa and George a super cool present, a brand new toy horse for them to play with. Everything suggests that Dottie is a shortened version of Dorothy, and you can even see a photo of her in Grandpa Pig's library in the episode where Mommy Pig buys a computer for him. In the picture, there's even a little piglet next to her, suggesting that Peppa and George have a maternal uncle who hasn't appeared in the show yet. Years later, the character finally shows up celebrating Thanksgiving with the whole pig family, and only then do we discover who was actually behind that mysterious gift. Since we know you love videos full of references, details, and Easter eggs, we're leaving two really cool ones so you can stay right here with us. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.